Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that last session. We're now going to begin the current state of FPGAs in the trading world and the journey to ultra-low latency. I have here with me interviewer Simon Melzer, electronic trading, model development, and macro trading strategist at Hosier Trading Group, and interviewee Milan Jovaric, CEO at Netcope. Simon, Milan, if you can please turn on your cameras and unmute yourself now. And I'll let you guys take it from here.
Hope everybody can hear me okay.
It's okay.
Just check. Welcome everybody to this informal discussion on FPGA technology, titled "The Current State of FPGAs in the Trading World and the Journey to Ultra-Low Latency." So we're talking sub-milliseconds in the nanos. Joining me is Milan Dvorak, CEO of Netcope Technologies. So Milan, if you just want to introduce the subject of FPGAs and maybe give a definition to anybody who's not aware of what we're talking about.
Sure, I can do that. So FPGA stands for Field Programmable Gate Array. It's a hardware, it's a chip that can be programmed. So it offers the best of two worlds. CPUs, which are generic, programmable, and very flexible, and fixed hardware, ASIC, which offers very high performance but can't be changed on the fly. FPGAs can be reprogrammed in the field and customized to a very specific use case. In the trading world, customizing to a specific use case typically means customizing for ultra low latency. You already mentioned that the latencies go down to nanoseconds. But you don't use the flexibility, and you can change your strategies on a daily basis. You are not stuck with a fixed chip.
Yeah. So if we can maybe give a bit of sort of historical context for FPGA technology, the first commercial chip was produced by Xilinx. I think I'm correct in saying that, in '85. But with regards to trading, how long has the technology been in use? Where was it sort of origin? How has it evolved up until today?
Okay, so I think it's hard to speak about the origins, because I think originally it was used internally by different trading companies, and obviously they wanted to keep this secret. They didn't want their competitors to know about this, to keep the competitive advantage. But I think from around the year 2010, something like that, several companies, were created which were focused on the FPGA technology and how to bring it to the financial market. I think the first wave targeted just partial use cases, like accelerating the fee handler or accelerating order access to the exchange. We started in this space in 2012, and since the beginning, our goal was the best possible latency, which means taking the whole tick-to-trade system to the FPGA and get the best latency possible. Back then, it meant something like 1 microsecond, slightly below 1 microsecond. Today, it goes below 500 nanoseconds, or even close to 100 nanoseconds in some use cases.
Interesting. And this all ties in with how modern exchanges and the transaction of instruments has evolved. One statistic I think is important to relay to the audience is how in the early 2000s, only about 10 to 20% of instruments were traded with algorithms, and now it's up around 80 to 90. So it's just an evolving space. Can you sort of tell me some of the main advantages of using FPGA technology?
I think it's simply the latency.
The latency.
It's still slightly. It's still easier to use software. There are more software guides available. It's cheaper. The time to market is quicker, but there is only so fast you can go in software. And if you need the extra push, if you need to get if you need to be faster than most of the companies who are still using software, you need to switch to FPGA technology, which can be difficult a little bit, but that's why we are here, to make it as easy as possible to companies who don't necessarily have a previous FPGA experience, and allow them to get into this space and start using this exciting technology hardware to accelerate their strategies.
So let's sort of create a scenario where a company, we won't name any names for confidentiality, but a company who hasn't got much of a base in this, they come to you and say, we market make on, say, Europe. We need to be quicker. Please with the client.
So you are breaking that up a bit, at least for me. Yes. I think you were asking about potential client on UX coming to us, asking us how they can get fast in their market making business, for instance. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Milan. Yes.
Okay. Thanks. So what we typically suggest, because starting full on with the FPGA project can be quite expensive. You need to buy the hardware, you need to get development team and so on. It's a big commitment. So we typically suggest to clients to take it step by step. And very often the first step with us is starting with pure software to evaluate the feasibility of FPGA deployment for that particular company. Our experience and our tools have made it available for the clients to assess, the future performance and interoperability of the FPGA solution just with software. So they can assign their existing software guys to this project, let them play with our software tools, so they can get an idea about how fast will the algorithm run, will it actually fit into the FPGA, and how will it work, to integrate with their existing system without even touching the real FPGA.
And then in your experience, typically how is, once you've programmed the chips or the cards with the FPGA set up, how often does it need maintenance to keep it up running? Does it need software upgrades, this kind of thing?
So in our experience, to be competitive and profitable in the trading world, you can't, get stuck with a specific version of your strategy or your technology. I haven't done any trading myself, but working with clients in this space for several years, and it seems to me like every few days or weeks, they want to do some changes, tweaks, and modification to their strategies. So this is perfectly expected, and the combination of using FPGAs, which are programmable, and using our tools, our framework, which allows the client to implement their strategies in C, C++ without our involvement, allows them to have this flexibility. They can make a change to their code, compile the new image for the FPGA, program the FPGA using our API, and deploy a new strategy or adjusted strategy in a matter of hours. So I think that's a big advantage today compared to several years ago, that it's not so difficult to make these little iterations and adjustments, on the existing hardware. So I think this is more the day-to-day operations business, tweaking, optimizing, and so on. If we talk about the high-level point of view, like when does this specific hardware get obsolete? Historically, we have been in this space since 2012, and right now we are on our third generation of the FPGA chips made by Xilinx. So that would give you an average of 2 to 3 years of a life cycle of a specific generation of FPGA technology before a new one comes out, which is faster and better compared to the previous generation. That being said, it's not always clear that newer is better. Examples from the industry are the new PCI Express bus. The generation 4 is coming out, and it's not clear whether it will be faster or not. So similarly with FPGAs, it can't be said for sure whether the next generation coming out from Xilinx and Intel will be actually superior to the current one in terms of latency. But that's what we are here for, to advise our clients of, whether it makes sense to upgrade and what are the pros and cons of doing so.
And typically, would a client have the hardware based at their office, their operations, or would they have it co-located at an exchange, or also possibly several offices around the world? How does that typically work?
It's different. It's different from company to company. Of course, in production deployment, you need this hardware, co-located. You want to be as close to the exchange as possible, and possibly deploy microwave links as well. So that's for production deployment. But of course, some people also have the FPGA cards in their lab. The testing boxes, their testing environments where they can develop and test new algos internally without the risk of running something immature on the live market.
Sure. So if we sort of talk specifics of latency and speed, what's at the moment, what's the quickest, i.e. the lowest latency you're seeing, and also where can it go? What's the sort of maximum, and does it become exponentially harder to tweak out those final nanoseconds?
That's a very good question, and as it often is, I think it's called something like the 80-20 rule, something like that. To get the 80% of the latency optimization, you need to invest 20% of effort, and on the other hand, to get the last 20%, it costs you the most of the effort and money and so on. So I think the more important question isn't how fast can we go, but maybe how fast do you need to go. There are different spectrums of latency and algorithms and strategies. There are some algorithms that need to be on the very top, down to tens of nanoseconds, which gets really difficult, really expensive, and you can't do very smart strategies when you are optimizing to every single nanosecond. So I don't think that's for everybody. Everyone needs to find a sweet spot. We are, I think the tier right after that, without doing any crazy things and crazy optimization, but still get better latency than most people out there, and allow the clients to run something smarter, to implement a strategy in C++ like software, and be able to do more things than just simple triggers. If market opens, I want to send a reaction and it takes me 30 nanoseconds or something like that. There's not a lot of smarts you can put into a thing like that.
Sure. And are you seeing, well, I noticed today's topics, several of them are on cryptocurrencies, and it is kind of like the new buzz asset class. Are you seeing more and more clients interested in crypto? And because it's all, on distributed networks, I presume latency is a big issue with that. Are you seeing a growth in that specifically in your business?
Not really. Not really. Well, not yet. I think my understanding is that the crypto markets aren't mature enough. I think FPGAs do really well, like the US equities futures, standard products when you have a exchange, co-location, and everything is well defined, and they are using modern protocols and everything. A lot of the crypto exchanges are now based in a cloud or the internet. You might need a VPN connection to even play there, and the latency of the network and the physical access itself is so high that it doesn't make sense, to use FPGA to decrease this latency. not yet. If it takes you 100 milliseconds to send a network packet to the exchange, then you probably don't care whether your software it's taking 100 microseconds or 1 microsecond to respond, because the 1 millisecond will be more significant. If you are co-located, then it's a whole different scenario.
Sure, it becomes a different strategy, basically. Yeah, sure, as you were alluding to earlier. Yeah, interesting. And sort of, what are the main challenges for FPGA technology going forwards in the short term and further out?
Okay, so what we've seen is the FPGA technology getting more and more popular. The industry is shifting a bit, I think, into making FPGAs a commodity. Big companies like Intel, Xilinx are making their own cards. Microsoft, Amazon, deploying FPGA cards in their cloud and so on. So even we get more and more interest from newer companies, who weren't able to do FPGAs a few years ago, but now they are starting to look into that, and they want to get on this train. So I think that means that the challenges will be like the scalability and sustainability, because we only have the same amount of hardware engineers in the world, but more people wanting to use FPGAs. So I think that's where methodologies like HLS, high-level synthesis, which allows you to use C++ to program the FPGAs, and other tools and other companies like ours will come into play to allow more people to actually use this technology. A slight challenge on the client side might be handling the risk and testing and everything, to make sure everything is still working okay and to avoid any problems or risks. But we are also doing what we can on that front to provide the fail safes and risk checks and everything we can do to make sure this technology is safe to use.
Another sort of question, I just off the top of the head, actually, how does it interplay with cybersecurity? Because that is always becoming a growing theme. Yeah, could you talk a little bit about that, maybe?
Security, like
in the sense, is it possible for them to be hacked, or what kind of how does a trading firm secure it? Are they secure? How does it come under individual security on the hardware, or is it the overall security of the operation?
I don't see many risks there. The FPGAs are deployed physically at the co-location data center, where typically you don't have internet access and physical access there. So since it's isolated, I don't see big security concerns.
Sure. So it's basically firewall.
Yes.
Yeah. We did have a question pop up, but could our assistant?
I can see it.
Possibly. Oh, if you could answer that, possibly.
Yeah. So the question was: is your service compatible with the FPGAs in cloud infrastructures like Amazon, Alibaba, and so on? I must say we haven't done this yet. The reason is similar for the crypto exchanges, because cloud is typically too far from the physical exchanges, so latency of communication is too high. But when exchanges move to the cloud, which I think can happen in several years, then this will start to be interesting, and it won't be a problem for us. As far as I know, they are still using Xilinx chips. They are pretty standard, so it's not a big problem for us to port our solution to new platforms.
Great. Well, that pretty much wraps our time slot up, Milan. Is there any final things you'd like to say?
I just, if anyone is interested in this topic, FPGAs and programming them like software, feel free to visit our booth. We have a video there explaining in more details of how you can get started with this technology. And also we've done a more in-depth talk about optimizing strategies in C++ for FPGAs at the previous Trading Show Americas event, so you can check that out as well. And as always, you can reach out to us and talk to our staff about how we can help you get the lowest latency possible, even without FPGA engineers in-house.
Great stuff. Well, thanks for talking today, Milan, and we'll look forward to enjoying the rest of the day. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.